Hello, this is the Ramblings of an Undisciplined Mind podcast for Wednesday, August 24th, 2016. As of this recording, Sierra is still missing. I'm still kind of feeling annoyed. I was working on a blog post, a real blog post, where real written words. I had a little time at work, and I was working on it using the Blogger app. And I ended up, I noticed that my phone wasn't charging. It was actually, even though I had plugged in, it was still consuming power, and it was getting a little low. So I did what I usually do, and I closed all the apps. Even though I was maybe 2/3 of the way through this post, it's gone. Everything was gone, except for the title. I saved the title. It saved the fact that a post existed in the drafts folder. All the text gone. I don't know that the WordPress app is going to be any better, but yeah, that's kind of 1990 something. I mean, that's like, seriously? So I got to redo everything I wrote. Not that that's a big deal, but it's just annoying. It's annoying. But what I thought I'd talk about today is I recently downloaded a new game on my Android. And it might be available for iOS or not. I am not really sure. I'm going to be talking about, I think I'm going to be doing a number of Android games that look interesting. And, you know, I would imagine that any game that's trying to be popular and, you know, you'll have a broad reach is going to be on both platforms. So in this day and age, if you aren't on iOS and Android, then I really don't know what to make of you, because you really need to be on both. There's actually a software product I work with that was talking today about all of their iOS support in a new release, and no mention of Android. Is like, seriously, you've got this release of software that's coming out first quarter of next year, and you don't have Android support yet? Seriously? But I digress. So I went into the Google Play Store, and I was like, show me the new free games. I wasn't going to spend any money. And this game stood out to me because of the artwork. It actually reminded me of something out of Inside or Limbo, which I've talked about in the past. It is actually nothing like them because it's not a platform game of any kind. It's called Survive, and the subtitle is Wilderness Survival. And the publisher is, I'm assuming, a person, Juuso, Juuso, and then the last name, oh my gosh, I'm not even trying to pronounce it because I will screw it up, but it's Hietalahti. Hietalahti, maybe? Something like that? But what it is it's really a text-based, I shouldn't say text-based game. It's not like an old MS-DOS text-based game, but it's a text-based game in that you are looking at various things, and they have some nice artwork there. It's a pretty game to look at. But all of the action is you selecting something, and really the action takes place in sound, and they're very specific about, be listening to sound when you do that. And it does add a lot to the game. I mean, you could play the game without sound, or if you had a hearing difficulty, you could play the game without the sound. It just adds another dimension. So the basic premise is your car is broken down. You are something like 60 miles away from safety, and you have to get there on foot. And you've got a backpack with a couple of bottles of water, and you've got some food, and you've got, like a hatchet or something, and you've got some basic stuff, and then you need to go from place to place to place to try to get to safety. And you've got 4 major things that you need to be tracking. in keeping on top of. First, well, actually really 5, because number 1, you're trying to work your way toward safety. That kind of goes without saying. And then you got 4 other elements. You're working on your heat level. How warm are you? Are you keeping your body heat in? You've got to work on your hydration. You've got to keep an eye on your energy level. So how many that's expressed in calories. So you've got like 4,000 calories total, and the more you do, the more you expend. And then your stamina. And so those will go up or decline based on what you're doing. So you start off in the car, and yeah, you could stay in the car, and this car will keep you warm. But there's limited things. You aren't going to get the safety if you stay in the car. So you eventually have to set out. And there's a number of different things that you can do. So you go to a new place. You've got a number of options available for you. So you got your shelter. You can build a shelter. You can build a debris shelter. You can build a lean-to if you get some rope. You can make a rain catcher. You have a trash bag. It's one of your items. So you can use your trash bag to create a rain catcher, which is a nice way to get water that's clean, that doesn't need boiling. You can forage, where you might find things like edible berries, and you might get things and mushrooms, but you might get unknown berries and unknown mushrooms that might poison you. You might find cordage material that you can use to make rope. You might find crickets and maggots, which you can eat, but you could also use to make into bait. So you've got some options there. And then you can craft things. I already mentioned making rope. You can make a 3-pronged spear that you can use for fishing if you're by a creek or by a lake. You can make a fishing pole. You gotta make a hook and fishing pole out of wood. You do have to go, and you have to go searching for wood. That's another activity you can do. And it tells you how many, so like you start off and there's like, 5 hours till darkness. So each activity you take, it tells you, so gathering wood is an hour. Foraging is an hour. Setting up what they call a debris shelter, which is, I guess, using debris, is 4 hours. Setting up a lean-to is 1 hour. I don't really understand that. To me, it seems like it'd almost be the opposite, but whatever. I've built neither. What do I know? And so what I was doing the first game I played, you could go looking for animal tracks. Now you could really only do that during the daylight hours. And both times when I went looking for animal tracks and went hunting for whatever made the tracks, I found a bear. And the first time I was like, okay, I'm gonna back away, and slowly, and the character was able to get away from the bear. The second time the bear attacked and I died. My second playthrough, I thought, I'm going to stay away from the hunting aspect of it, and I'm going to try to stay near water so I can be fishing, because that's safe. And that worked out quite well. I actually finished the game, got to the point where I got the safety. It is a bit of a catch-22, because you can get to the point where, so let me go through what it was that I would do. I would get to a new location. I was going along a creek for a while, and so I would set up. I would usually go foraging, try to find some cordage material so I could build a lean-to. I would build a lean-to. I might rest if I needed to. If you rest, you can rest for an hour, or you can sleep for 5 to 7 hours. So if I rest for an hour, you get some energy back. You get some stamina back. If you sleep, you get typically all of your stamina back. Goes back to 100. You might get a little bit of energy back. But then I would get some wood, so I could, if there was something I needed to craft. Like one of the first things I will craft is you got a couple different things that you can use to make a fire. One of them is the bow, the whole bow and the stick thing, and then you go back and forth. That actually works pretty well. Usually you're given some supply of matches and some supply of, one time I got a supply with supply with a butane lighter that had a limited number of uses. And by supply matches, I mean you got like 6 or 7. So I usually kind of wait on those. If I get into, if you get to a point where you're really low on stamina or really low on energy, doing anything can take a long time. And so if it's getting kind of critical that I start a fire right now, that's when I would use a match. Otherwise, I'll use my little bow thing, and it actually works fairly well. Every now and again, it'll be like, that didn't work, and you got to try again. Fine. That takes 30 minutes to do that, and you can stoke the fire, and that helps keep your heat up, obviously, as well as giving you the ability to cook or smoke meat. So if you catch a fish, if you can set up snares and things, I guess to snare rabbits. I want to try that next. I've set up a snare, but I've never really had it return something to me. I've mainly dealt with fishing, and I've done it with a fishing rod, which works okay. I've done it with a spear, which works pretty good. But you can also lay out, I forget what they called it. It was basically like a trap in the water. There's a term for it. I forget what it was. And that would pretty consistently give me fish. And so I got to the point where I was eating pretty good. And so you have to gut the fish, and then you can either cook it or smoke it. And I was cooking it, but what happened is I could cook it, but then if I cooked it and ate some of it, and I'm gonna leave a piece of the fish for breakfast, and then I slept for 7 hours, I woke up, it was spoiled. And what I realized was if I smoked it, that preserved it. And then I could build up a bunch of fish. And I actually got to the point where I was totally full up on my energy, which was nice. And then I had a unlimited supply of water, and most of the time the water was clean. A couple times it was unclean, and I had to boil it in the fire. And the fire only lasts for a certain amount of time, and it tells you how long that's going to be. But it's really turn-based. It does do a little bit of an internal timer, but most of the sense of time passing is because you say, I want to do this, and that takes so many minutes or hours. And then you get to the point where it's like, okay, so I get to the point where I maybe had a little bit of food stored up, and my energy was good, and my stamina was good, and then I'll move on to the next thing. And it would say, okay, you're walking, and you'd hear the sounds of yourself walking through the woods. And then you would get there, and time has passed, and you always had to drop the wood because you had a limited amount of stuff you could carry. So if you had extra wood that you hadn't burned or whatever, you always had to drop it because it made you over encumbered. So usually one of the first things I would do would be to get wood, and then I would kind of start all over as far as, do I need to look for food, either foraging or fishing, whatnot. It was a fun game. It was fun to play. It's interesting in a game where you're not really seeing anything except when you're pushing on stuff. There's a little fire icon that will glow when the fire is lit, and then you'll see the sticks sitting there. But most of the action is coming from you doing stuff. You do have to do everything. So if I catch a fish, it'll put that in my inventory, and then I have to go to my inventory and say, what is it I want to do with that fish? Do I want to eat it raw, which can make me sick, or do I want to gut it? So I have to gut it, and then once I gut it, then when the fire is going, I'm on the fire menu, then I can say I either want to cook it or smoke it. So it very much is you have to do step A and B to get to be able to do step C. So it makes you think about, and it's an interesting game. They do put disclaimers on there that this isn't meant to be, a primer on how to survive in the wilderness, but it does kind of get you thinking along those lines. And so it's an interesting game. So if you're looking for a game that isn't a lot of flashy graphics, it does have a very clean look. It's very pleasant to look at. So I do like it for that. Aesthetically, it was very pleasing to look at. And the sounds are really good. So when you open a water bottle, you hear the sound of a metal canteen opening. Have you ever heard that? And then you'll hear the sound of the character that you're playing seems to be female. You hear her drinking a little bit. There is kind of a picture of her at the shelter, just kind of sitting there, kind of arms around her knees a little bit, and I think it looks female. I've always kind of had that impression. But it's fun. I did make it on my second try, where I was doing mainly the fishing. I did manage to get to safety and win the game, and I'll probably play it again and try to do it mainly with snares and things like that. I don't know that I'll do the following the tracks thing, because that doesn't seem to work out very well for me. Because like when the bear got me, they did have pretty good sounding bear noises. Like I know what a bear sounds like, but it sounded good to me. What do I know? So yeah, that is called Survive. I gave you that big old long name. I won't say it again. You can always back up for it. That was what they had for the publisher name. So it wasn't like a gaming house. It sounds like it's something that this person developed. And it's fun. On the Android store, it had a rating of 4.1, which is not bad. And it was listed as one of the newer games, so I don't think it's been out for too very, very much long. But yeah, if you're looking for a nice game that doesn't have a lot of flashy graphics and stupid, silly sound effects, I would recommend trying it out. Once again, it's called Survive. But I am over 16 minutes, so I think I will let that be that for today. I will be back tomorrow, and I'll be talking to you then. So, be seeing you.